Hi everybody, welcome to episode number 14 about the Yocto Project and OpenEmbedded on Raspberry Pi 5. In the previous episode, I've showed you how to use the Wayland display protocol and its reference compositor called Weston. In this video, I'll follow up with another topic about graphical user interfaces. In the next chapters, I'll show you how to use Qt on your custom embedded Linux distribution. Qt is a cross-platform application development framework written primarily in C++, but also featuring its own declarative language called QML. Furthermore, there are various different language bindings which allow you to use Qt from different programming languages such as Python. Qt is really good with graphical user interfaces. Historically, it was created in the early 90s by a company called Trolltech, and it was very popular back then because it allowed an easy way how to develop the same graphical user interface for different operating systems such as Microsoft Windows, macOS, and of course different Linux distributions. My first touch with Qt was around 2008 or 2009 when Nokia acquired Qt with the idea to use it as an application development framework for mobile applications running on their operating systems such as Symbian and Linux distributions, Maemo for Nokia N900 and MeeGo for Nokia N9. Of course, things didn't work out very well for Nokia. You all know the story, I'm sure, about this. However, Qt is still quite popular for embedded devices, especially for embedded Linux devices, as well as in the automotive industry. Nowadays, Qt is developed and maintained by the Qt company, and they provide a layer called meta-qt6 for integration with the Yocto Project and OpenEmbedded. Actually, I'm a modest contributor to this layer. We're going to use version 6.8, which is compatible with the long-term support release of the Yocto Project Scarthgap that I have been using so far in my course about the Yocto Project and OpenEmbedded on Raspberry Pi 5. The Yocto project and Qt have a completely different release schedules. Because of this, the README file that is part of the layer meta-qt6 contains this compatibility matrix in which we can map a Yocto release to a Qt release, and we can see which releases of the Yocto project are supported in the different branches of meta-qt6. As I told you, I want to use Qt version 6.8, which supports several Yocto releases, but in our case, we will be using it with release Scarthgap. I downloaded the source code of meta-qt6 branch 6.8 using the git clone command, and after that, I've initialized the build environment. After that, I've executed bitbake-layers with the argument add a layer. You are already familiar with this command from my very first tutorial. It adds the layer to bblayers.conf. My next step is to modify local.conf and to include Qt examples. My idea is to build again core-image-weston that you know from my previous video, and to run Qt applications on top of Wayland and Weston. Qt is a huge project and the source code is spread into several different Git repositories. So in meta-qt6 we have several different recipes. We have qtbase for the basic components, and we also have qtdeclarative, which is the home to QML, qtquick and several related modules. Both qtbase and qtdeclarative include examples, but they are not built by default. Because of this, I have to modify the package config. Instead of creating bb-append files from my own layer, I use this very specific syntax for extending package config from local.conf. This feature supported by bitbake is called pn-overrides. pn stands for package name, which is actually the name of the recipe. Package config is a variable from each of the two recipes, qtbase and qtdeclarative. So with this trick from local.conf, I'm extending the value of package config for each of these recipes with examples. As a result, Qt will build these example packages when building QtBase and QtDeclarative, but won't automatically include them in our image. Because of this, I have to explicitly specify it and include it in our image using image install append. You are already familiar with this from my previous tutorials. I saved my changes, exit the Vim text editor and typed in bitbake core-image-weston. I'm using the same working environment where I built core-image-weston as part of episode number 13, the previous episode. So now bitbake will reuse the shared state. However, I have added meta-qt6. Because of this, bitbake will have to build from scratch qt6, which takes a while. After parsing all recipes, bitbake outputted the build configuration. As you can see, we are using Pocky, the reference distribution of the Yocto project, based on Yocto release Scarthgap, therefore the version is 5. And we are building it for machine Raspberry Pi 5 using the community maintained BSP layer meta-raspberrypi. The only new thing is meta-qt6. However, don't underestimate it. Qt is a huge project, so it takes a while to build it. Especially if using a PC with more limited hardware resources, as in my case, because I'm using one of my ThinkCenter mini PCs to build a core-image-weston with Qt6 on it. Thanks to the magic of video editing, I'll just fast forward and skip the whole build procedure. You know the drill, you have seen it in my previous videos, it's not that interesting, we just have to make sure that core-image-weston has been built by bitbake. Once bitbake completes all tasks, I'm going to flash it to a microSD card. After successfully building core-image-weston, I flashed it to a microSD card, and now I can demonstrate you how the Qt applications run on a Raspberry Pi 5 with the 7-inch version of the official Raspberry Pi Touch Display 2. I'm using exactly the same hardware setup as in my previous video, which features Raspberry Pi 5 with a heatsink and a cooler. In general, Raspberry Pi 5 heats quite a lot because of the Broadcom system on a chip. It's a powerful CPU, but it requires some resources, especially when running graphical user interfaces, including Wayland, Westland, and now Qt applications. I plugged the micro SD card with core-image-weston using tweezers, and after that I've attached a USB mechanical keyboard. I plugged the official Raspberry Pi USB-C power supply, which provides power delivery, and core-image-weston booted automatically on my setup. Of course, the key hardware ingredient for this video is the Raspberry Pi Touch Display 2. There are 5-inch and 7-inch versions of this display. I'm using the 7-inch version, and it is connected to one of the two dedicated DSI connectors on Raspberry Pi 5. In the previous video, episode number 13, I've showed you how to configure local.conf in order to add the required configurations to config.txt for the Raspberry Pi 5 to work with this display. I haven't changed these configurations in local.conf, so I'm still using them. However, if you have watched my previous video, you know that by default, the Raspberry Pi Touch Display 2 boots in portrait mode, which is a little bit annoying, but it's okay for the demonstrations that I have in mind in this video. There are a lot of different examples that demonstrate different capabilities and features of Qt. All of them are deployed at /user/share/examples. The first demonstration is with the 2D painting example. It shows how QPainter and QOpenGL widget can be used together to display accelerated two-dimensional graphics. This example application shows how the same painting operations are performed at the same time in a widget and a GL widget. The quality and the speed of rendering in the GL widget depends on the level of support for multi-sampling and hardware acceleration on the Raspberry Pi 5 OpenGL drivers. The second demonstration is with the analog clock application. This is a good way to show how the transformation and scaling with QPainter works in a custom widget. By the way, probably here is the right time to say that the whole demonstration with all the applications that I'm showing you here took me 10 minutes, but of course, thanks to the modern technologies and the video editing capabilities, I have increased the speed of certain parts of the video while I'm launching each demonstration. For your convenience, I added labels with the exact speed for the sections that I'm fast forwarding. The third application is a QtQuick example that demonstrates embedding a QQuick window into a QWidget UI via the create window container. Of course, all these examples are free and open source software, so application developers can explore them to learn how Qt works, and platform developers like us building embedded Linux distributions can use these examples to validate that Qt is properly running on the system. The last demonstration that I have for you is probably the most entertaining. Here is the Qt Cube OpenGL ES20 example. This example application shows how to manually rotate a textured three-dimensional cube with user input using OpenGL ES20 and of course the Qt framework. In my case, the user input is the touchscreen. I'm taking an advantage of the Raspberry Pi touch display too. The cube geometry is interesting. There are many ways how to render polygons in OpenGL. Probably the most efficient way is to use only triangle strip primitives. The implementation uses the so-called vertex buffer objects from OpenGL. It is a pretty interesting example, so I had a look at the source code, but I have to admit that I haven't done application development in ages, so I'm way out of my comfort zone to do a code review. It's a pretty nice app. If you're curious, have a look at the source code yourself. At the end of the day, this course is dedicated to platform development of embedded Linux distributions with the Yocto project, so I need these examples just to verify that I have successfully integrated the meta-qt6 layer. I think I achieved the goals that I have, so at the end of the video we can summarize that Qt is a cross-platform application development framework for creating graphical user interfaces. It is widely used on embedded Linux devices. The framework also includes QtQuick for building custom highly dynamic user interfaces with the declarative scripting language called QML. QtDeclarative is the runtime interpreter for it. In this video, I showed you the exact steps how to use the meta-qt6 layer and to include examples for qtbase and qtdeclarative. By the way, one more thing. The correct way to write Qt is with uppercase for the Q and lowercase for the T, and the way to pronounce it is Qt. There is an old joke among Qt developers that written with capital letters, Qt stands for quick time. So please write and pronounce Qt properly. I have been doing professional platform development for embedded Linux systems for more than a decade. However, many years ago, my career started as a web developer, and after that I spent some time doing mobile application development with the Qt framework for the Nokia smartphones with the Symbian operating system, and after that with the MeeGo Linux distribution on Nokia N9. So Qt has a very special place in my heart. Because of this, I have in mind to show you another usage of Qt with the Yocto Project and OpenEmbedded, but this time with the Python programming language. This is something that I'll probably cover in the next episode. Please let me know what other topics you would like to see in this course. Thank you very much for watching. If you find these videos useful, please hit the like button and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Stay tuned for new videos. I hope to see you soon.